Huples Cat. Happy Father's Day. So we're having Kitty's father and mum round, and I'll just show you what we've done to keep them safe from us and us to be safe from them. So we're going to be sitting here and they're going to be sitting over there. They're going to have their hand lotion. So are we. It's not out yet because it's too hot. Kitty's got nuts. So they're going to come in through the gate and exit through the gate. So I'll bin Virox and Lysol down, and then they need to go to the toilet. So I will go around the house on our side. So this has all been Lysol down. This has been Lysol down. The lights have been left on, so there's no reason. Anything they might touch like this has been Lysol down the corners. The door's been shut. We don't have a door here, but we're minimally using that room. Banisters, side rails, sides of the thing, all been Lysol down. So we'll go out through the gate, into the front door, up here. We have the air conditioning on for them. This has all been Lysoled. It'll have to be Lysoled again because Kitty was told to keep the door shut. So it'll come up here. It's all been Lysol down. Doors are there are shut. The knobs have been Lysol down in case they're tempted to open them up, because people do that. And my room's shut down, everything's shut down. So when they come in here, what they're confronted with is an empty space. The only towels up are brand new, there's only one bin. There's Lysol on top of the fresh toilet roll with instructions not to put it in the toilet. Hand gel to use, I don't want them using water, and soap because of the aerosol effect. And just to let them know about the towels, put them on the floor. And some instructions for our toilet. We really should get this fixed. And of course the lights are on, so there's no need to touch the light switches, but they've all been Virox. So having them around for lunch rather than dinner because there might be bad weather and we don't want them to be in the house at all, except to use the washroom. We considered using luggable loo, but decided against it. Kitty made some tamari nuts and some peanut butter cookies. Got cashew nuts for them. The first Ontario strawberries and not Ontario grapes. And some mixed nuts, and of course everything separate. So before we hand everything to them, we wash our hands and then hand it to them whilst wearing masks. And here is the bread. Sweet potato bread. Meow! Bonus one for you guys. Yeah, so I said about half an hour to an hour setting up the bathroom. I stripped literally everything out that I could and literally Lysoled every surface and then left it for a good 2 hours or so. And I did the same with the hallway upstairs and the doors that I shut, and I did it for the banisters and the side rails and the walls and the sides of the walls where anybody might touch, and the front door forward and back and the gate forward and back and their table and all their area. And they never went to the washroom, so they never actually had to come in the house, which was good. And it took me about 10 minutes to put it back together again, and next time would be a lot faster. So what I was doing was I was trying to make sure there was no exhaled viruses from us on any surfaces. At the same time I was also trying to make sure that they would not be transferring viruses to us, that it was very clear where they'd been, and then we could clean up afterwards. They live in an assisted living facility that's had no outbreaks, which is awesome. They've got a very nice facility and they're very happy there, and it's been great for them. And we work as RNs, so the cross-contamination issue is direct. But we're fortunate, we've had a nice summer day and we have a nice garden. So what do you do if you only have one toilet? Well, depending on the visitors, for example, they're in their 80s, so they get the toilet, and we would use a luggable loo or a bucket if you don't have one of them, if we had to go, and keep the two places separate and clean before use and after they go home. But having two toilets makes it a lot easier. Obviously, we considered not having in the house at all for that and having a luggable loo in the garage. That was Kitty's idea. The two reasons we didn't do that: number one was aesthetics. I don't think in their 80s they'd like to go on a luggable loo or a bucket. The second reason, it's the more important one, is they're the least mobile out of the two groups. There's me and Kitty and there's them. So what a lot of people do with bubbling and having their group of 10 or 20, whatever it is they're seeing that as one group. I would say not. Me and Kitty are a distinct group. We live together. Anybody that comes into our bubble is a distinct group. Even though they're in our bubble, that doesn't mean we're going to hug and kiss them and give them back rubs. Not during a pandemic. You've still got to be very, very cautious. The only point of having a bubble is so that when you get sick, The infection control people know who's been contaminated much easier than trying to contact trace from people who've randomly talked to each other. So that's the whole point of bubbling. It's not that it is safe to have a bubble, it's convenient and more safe for society to limit the number of people who get infected. It doesn't mean that you won't get infected and that your bubble is safe to do whatever you want and it's not pandemic time for that bubble. So that's one of the things I think a lot of people are misinterpreting about bubbling, is that they really do believe that there's no limits. And in fact the government's saying, do what you want in your bubble, just blah blah blah. No, keep social distance, keep being very careful. So what we did here is we had hand sanitizer in the bathroom. I didn't use soap and water. Soap and water is the best method for getting rid of virus infection on your hands, but running water can aerosol, and so they used hand sanitizer. They had one in the bathroom, they had one on the table, and we had one on our table. So when they came, I showed them how to use it, using mine for the 30 seconds. I said, before you go upstairs to the toilet, can you wash your hands? Just go upstairs, that's the route. And then when you've finished on the toilet, don't flush unless you need to, but if you do, follow the instructions, because we've got a dodgy toilet. And then use the hand sanitizer in the bathroom before you leave the bathroom. When you get back to the table, use the hand sanitizer again. Kind of detailed, kind of aggressive. As I said to Kitty, if you're going to do protective precautions, do them properly. Don't do half measures. Half measures is where you get the gaps in the system that could be fatal. It's not worth risking her parents' lives by making things less complicated or less stringent. Now what we did was, when we served the food, we did hand sanitizers and we wore masks and we put them on our table. Whenever we approached them, we wore masks. Whenever they approached us, they wore masks. Now interestingly, the masks they were using are the medical Chinese masks that their facility is providing them with. So when they left, I gave them a nice supply of good old surgical masks, so they're going to have a little bit more protection against other people, but more importantly they're going to be less likely to infect other people. Wherever you can break the chain of infection in your community, your local community, as a prepper you need to try and do that. Mitigation in a pandemic doesn't mean wearing an N95 or wearing a full biochemical suit for your family and ignoring everybody around you. The more you can do safely and sanely to protect wider society, the less impact the pandemic will have on your local community, the less impact it will have on you. So it worked well. What happened was that her dad specifically kept forgetting and would wander over to us, so we'd have to send him back again to tell him to put his mask on. It's hard. We haven't seen them since, I believe, March, and it was hard. It's hard not to hug and kiss the people you love. It's harder, in my opinion, to attempt to kill them by being stupid, by being denialist, by being negligent. Whatever you can do that's reasonable and can be done, you need to do. And it worked well. What do you do if you've got one room, like you're in an apartment, one door in, one door out? What I would do is I prepare the door outside and inside, have the area they're going to be in near that door, and I would clean it and then not go into it for a couple of hours, okay, before they arrive. So I would do everything I could to do that. And if I had one toilet, either our house group would use it or the visitor group would use it, would have a little bucket to use, which you would then clean using a N95, a face shield and hand sanitizer and gloves afterwards. So it can be done in tiny little apartments. It can be done if you don't have a garden, but it's going to be a lot more difficult. In those circumstances, I think what I would actually do was I would fall into that North American trap of using cars. Have the two cars visit, or have them stay in their car in a car parking lot while you visit. Like, keep the distance. Whilst COVID-19 is spreading globally, and it is spreading globally, and the curve is like this, not like this, it's like this globally. Think about what you're going to do to protect your loved ones from getting infected from you if you're infected and don't know it, or them infecting you if they're infected and don't know it. Clearly, anybody that's had these signs or symptoms in the previous 28 days, in my opinion, shouldn't be actually in physical contact with or without N95s. I firmly believe that, and I believe it should be 28 days. The reason for that is there has been positive cases that have been hospitalized, have been negative until about the 27th, 28th day. If you really want to be specific, you might want to go for 31 days. I mean, it sounds crazy, right? This is crazy. But as I said with the coffee cup, if you drink this coffee and once in 200 times you get infected and die, are you going to drink any of the coffee? 199 times it's fine. Or what about if you drink the coffee and the only people that die from it are the people over the age of 55, except once in every 1,000 cases? Are you going to drink coffee if it's going to kill you once in 1,000 times? I don't think so. And you need to take personal responsibility. It's your health and your body. I keep hearing this. Shave, wear N95s, wear surgical masks, don't take silly risks, work if you need to, try and be protected at work, don't rely on your employer, don't rely on the government, have gear yourself. If you don't have gear, look at improvising gear. There's multitudinous videos now about how to make reasonable cloth masks. Now, are they actually going to stop you catching it? No, nor does an N95. An N95 only stops 95% of it. You might be unlucky, especially if you're a high risk group, which is why you want to limit exposure to other people. The infection is spread person to person or person to object, object to person. Okay? So that's what you want to be focusing on. Leaving aside the politics of all of this and how President Trump is clearly trying to manipulate this for election reasons, and so is Biden to some degree, large degree actually. The political manipulation and the corporate manipulation of a pandemic should be something left-wing, right-wing and centrist preppers look at and go, I expected that. Everybody's going to try and use this catastrophe for their own profit. I'm not. I'm going to try and mitigate the effects of this catastrophe on me, my family and my local community. I don't care about politics. I don't care about political statements. I'm wearing a face mask because hello, right? And if you're a Trump supporter, wear one with Trump on it. If you're a Biden supporter, wear one with Biden on it. Do whatever you want. You can write on safe masks little messages. It's not recommended, but I do. Now at this point in the catastrophe called a pandemic, you should actually have plenty of toilet roll. We do. If you don't, you've kind of failed as a prepper. However, what we did was I removed the toilet roll we'd been using, and then I cleaned off the stand for the toilet roll holder and I left it an hour. Then I cleaned my hands thoroughly and put a toilet roll that hadn't been used on the toilet roll holder. I then placed a clean Lysol sheet over it with a note telling them to please not put the Lysol sheet down the toilet because it would, block it. So there's things you can do. Think about yourself. How would you go about entertaining in a pandemic? Because it's absolutely critical that we maintain social function. Electronic devices and Zooming and all the rest of it, it's fine. Google Meet, whatever. If you want your stuff to be out there on the internet, if you want the government or anybody to just look at what you're doing, that's fine. But the human touch is really important. So to actually meet with Kitty's parents for the first time in 3 months without wearing face masks so I can see their facial expressions was great. Now one of the things is the dad's not had a haircut and he's looking a bit like Trudeau. So he's actually going to book himself in an appointment to have his hair cut because when they're opening it's safe to do so. So that's what the majority of the population will do in a pandemic. They will follow the government advice, and that's great if you have nothing else. But if you're a prepper, you should have additional information and additional concerns and go beyond what the majority of the people are doing to mitigate and avoid catching or spreading a pandemic disease. You shouldn't actually go out of your way to do less than the government's recommending to avoid you catching or spreading a disease. And that is absolutely astounding in 2020 how many preppers revealed themselves to be children who like to play soldiers, but when it came to it, wouldn't shave, wouldn't wear masks in public, and made up all sorts of nonsense reasons, the Constitution, but didn't actually realise that it's a pandemic and it's partially airborne and they're a prepper, and they should lead the population. Our attempts to avoid catching or spreading COVID-19 should exceed what the government's telling us to do. It should never be less than. At worst, if it's the same as, that helps, but I don't believe that lockdown should be ending. Personally, I'm not going to until global cases are pretty much zero, and they're really not. And I'm not going to take risks with my health, Kitty's health, and her parents' health if I can avoid doing so. Is it expensive? Slightly. Is it annoying? Very. Is it detrimental to my emotional and spiritual well-being? Yeah, probably it is. But I don't want to look Kitty in the eye thinking, you know what, I may have given them COVID-19, I'm not really sure, because I really didn't wash my hands that aggressively when they visited, and now they're dead. That's it. That's the simple message. Of course, if you believe there is no such thing as COVID-19, you've actually got serious mental illness at this point, and you actually do need to seek professional medical advice, because psychiatric illness is obviously manifesting higher rates because of the emotional and physical and societal stress that we have. And preppers are not immune from that, because a lot of preppers who do not believe that this will kill them or that they can possibly die from it are out there online and have been still publishing stuff saying, I'm fit and well, I don't need to shave my beard, I put tea tree oil in it, and I will be fine if I catch it. Absolute nonsense. You've no idea if you're going to catch it or not, and you've no idea if you'll survive that experience. None at all. It doesn't mean you're 25 and you're going to be fine. People who are young don't die as often or as easily as people who are old, but they're still being killed from this disease. So I really can't comprehend nor understand the headspace those people are in. And if you're in that headspace, I pity you. I'm not angry at you. I don't go, well, you're killing the population. I just don't understand. I just can't comprehend why a prepper wouldn't do more than the government recommended to prevent catching or passing along a pandemic disease. But if the reason is you don't believe that you could catch it or you don't believe you could die from it, where's that delusion coming from? And if you believe that it's a hoax, that's absolutely nuts. Like it is. Sorry, you really do need some help. And I'm open to people VRing this and telling me why I'm wrong, why all my precautions are daft, and explaining their positions on why they're still wearing a beard. Please don't quote the American Constitution. Most of the world are Americans. I'm not. I'm Canadian. And I don't believe the Constitution tells you you have a right to endanger the general welfare of the population of Americans. I don't think it does. You can explain to me why you have a right not to wear a face mask in a pandemic. You have a right not to wear a face mask in a pandemic, obviously, but what sort of loopy-loop wouldn't? I don't know. Anyway, that's all from me. Remember SHTF, tomorrow will always be worse than today, unless you prep. Part of prepping is to go over and above to avoid getting personal injury or spreading personal injury to other people. There is no excuse for not wearing a mask in public. There is no excuse for not washing your hands. And it's very, very important that we have good, solid ties to the people we love. Doodles! This was a Bad Terrier 2020 production.